Hey guys, welcome to the channel if you're new here, and thanks for coming back if you're a regular viewer. This video is going to be a discussion and I guess quote-unquote review, if you want to call it that, for the Babyklok show that I went to see in Pittsburgh on September 8th, 2023. I'm going to guess that the majority of you that are here for the BabyMetal section of my review, but be patient. I'm going to discuss all three acts. After my discussion, there will be some footage of what I consider some of the highlights from each act, separated out. I'm also going to present this in a way that I think it should have gone. In other words, I wish BabyMetal had closed the show instead of Dethklok. So that's the way I'm going to review this. All right, so first up, we had Jason Richardson. He opened the show. He is a solo metal guitarist, and I had to Google him to find out that he's also the guitarist of the band All That Remains, who I've definitely heard before. I didn't recognize the name whatsoever until I Googled him. I must say he was very, very impressive as far as his skills went. His sound was a lot different than from what I remember listening to All That Remains. Very technical and musical at the same time. I will say that I wish he did have a full band with him instead of playing to a backing track, but that doesn't take away from his talent. It was still an amazing performance, an amazing set. So let's take a look at some of those moments right now. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Dethklok. I remember Dethklok from the Adult Swim days, but I'll be honest, I was one of the rare people that I ran into personally who was there specifically for BabyMetal. Everyone I talked to around my little section there seemed to be there specifically for Dethklok, which is fine. Definitely a little bit of an older crowd. But let's start with their show. Dethklok's stage show was freaking awesome. They ended up closing this particular concert, so they were the closing act. But their stage show was awesome. The way the band themselves was pretty much in shadow for the majority of all their songs, and let the videos behind them and tell the story was a great great way to present them. I'm glad the videos were there because given the style of music it was, I probably would have lost interest without being able to watch what was going on. The crowd in Pittsburgh was definitely a Dethklok crowd. Random people, like I said, who I was sitting in the area and talked to, they were all there for Dethklok. The floor was also heavily weighted to Dethklok's side. There were definitely BabyMetal fans on the floor, but the majority of the fans there, you could tell, were Dethklok fans. The most unexpected parts for me was definitely the Facebone skits. That happened every couple of songs. I laughed my ass off at them, and they really kept me in the mood to keep watching more. I enjoyed the Facebone skits a lot. Finally, the power that they projected as a band was crazy, where I was sitting at least. I could physically feel the music a lot of the time vibrating in the stands. Overall, it was very, very loud. I will admit that because they were the closing act for the show, I ended up leaving a few songs early to get back to my car and beat the traffic, because the intersection of where you go into Robert Morris University, yeah, that would have been a hellhole with the amount of cars that were there. So I did end up leaving a little bit early to accumulate for that that little bit of traffic jam that I did not want it. And if it had been BabyMetal closing the act, I can guarantee I would have stayed right to the end and dealt with the traffic. But right now, let's check out some of the clips from Dethklok's performances.
Drinking booze, smoking pot, 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 smoking pot. Have you smoked pot tonight? Facebook secretly smoked pot before the show. Don't call the cops. But you can burn the Facebook, suck the dick of the deities of Mary Kay.
Hope you enjoyed that. Finally, let's talk about BabyMetal. I'm sure that's what most of you are here for. What can I say? I was simply in awe the entire time I was watching them. I was lucky enough, based on my seat, that I was able to position my phone in a way where I could easily watch the whole show with my eyes and record it at the same time. So don't worry. Those of you who may wonder if I was watching the whole show through the screen, no, I was not. Just because of the way I was positioned in the seats and my seat exactly where it was just easy to do both at the same time. So no, I did not watch the show through my screen. All right. Someone in a comment, I forget which one of the, it was either Metali or Monochrome, one of the two, when I released that footage, said it best, that watching the girls walk onto stage during BabyMetal Death and that opening part of it is almost unreal. I've seen that progression where they walk on stage so many times in live videos and concerts, Blu-rays and stuff, but witnessing it right in front of me was like, as the commenter put it, it's like going to Africa for the first time and seeing a lion in the wild for the first time, because you know they exist, you know they're real, but seeing it right there in front of you happening is just mind-blowing. I thought that was a great description, so I wanted to include it in this. All right, there are many, many parts of this show where I was just instinctively having this huge smile on my face, listening, enjoying, and singing along. I was like a little kid again, which doesn't happen very often to me in my personality. The entire show was just amazing. Sue's vocals were on point the whole time. I was super impressed at even the very final note she sang at the end of Road of Resistance, which is a pretty damn high note. She didn't even seem like she had to reach or struggle for it. There were little glitches here and there, but it's a live performance. It's going to happen, and that's awesome. But you always wonder when you watch these live Blu-rays how much vocal editing was done to make it come out sounding perfect, which we know happens. But I can say that she was dead on point the vast, vast, vast majority of this show. Now, the big debate that I've heard about this particular show in Pittsburgh is the crowd. So let's talk about my experience with the crowd. As I said earlier, overall, this was definitely a Dethklok crowd, that's for sure. But I must say, all these people who come into comments from my videos of this concert, and not only mine, but I've seen the same people, the same discussion happening in other channels as well, who use the word dead to describe the crowd, I definitely disagree with. The crowd, to my surprise, was a lot older on average than I would have expected, which was nice to see because, you know, I'm a little bit older. Even the Dethklok fans that were sitting near me were impressed and enjoyed the BabyMetal performance. But a lot of them didn't know BabyMetal, or knew of them, but, you know, they're not there for BabyMetal, they're there for Dethklok, and they don't really know about the interaction. But it was crazy because the most surprising fans to me were actually sitting right beside me. They were an older, maybe in their late 60s, early 70s Asian couple who were definitely there for BabyMetal. They were thoroughly enjoying it, but they weren't reacting. You could just watch. They weren't. The easiest way to put it, I guess, is the older woman was reading a Kindle during Jason Richardson, and then when BabyMetal came on, Kindle went away, and she was 100% focused on the crowd. And then when BabyMetal was done, they left. But I was very surprised to see that. I was also very surprised to see the number of people dressed up in some sort of either BabyMetal or commie band cosplay, I'll say. I didn't see many on the floor. They were sporadically throughout there on the floor, but I definitely saw more of them in the stands and in the lines while I was waiting for merch, while I was in the lines for food and drinks and stuff like that. Definitely a lot of them dressed up in cosplay, and it was definitely BabyMetal cosplay. There was this huge section to my right of people all dressed up. Commie band, they had the kitsune masks, and they were directly behind the sound booth, and they were definitely into the show. It was very, very awesome. They were up dancing, you know, they were singing along, they were cheering, they were, anytime Sue, no motion to do something, they were over there. That was awesome. I wish I'd turned my camera to capture that, but I was more, you know, I was watching the show. I could see that stuff happening. It was there. It was sporadically throughout the stands. Not a lot of it, again, on the floor. And majority of the videos that are out there don't show a lot of the stands, including my own, because I would have had to literally turn around to get to them. Given the makeup of the crowd, the majority being Dethklok, the older generation, the older people, and I'm not old. I'm in my my late 40s, but people my age and around my age, I was pleasantly surprised to see the crowd interaction that did take place. It doesn't come across well in the videos that I specifically posted, but I have seen other ones that do show it. Mine's basically because of my position where I was in the very first row of the stands. But there were a lot of people in the stands cheering, like I said, doing the fox horns, dancing, jumping around, to the point where there were points where the stands that I was in were shaking. In very specific moments, you can probably guess what some of these moments are of the show, especially when the older songs kicked on. The older songs definitely hit harder for a lot of the BabyMetal fans that were in there. So things like Metali, which is a huge pump up, but it's a brand new song. It almost seemed like to me like the fans didn't immediately recognize what it was for what it was. Maybe that's because the Kami Band intro, I don't know, but they definitely responded better to the much, much older songs. Overall, though, seeing this performance really, really, really wants me to have the chance to go and see them live in Japan at some point. I can only imagine how amazing that experience would be. So let's take a look right now at some of my favorite moments from the show.
やりしたり気取り誇りやかし探しば取り話言葉巧み飾り一人二人よりのろし引きしリアルフェイク語り錆びた鎖幻
right, yeah. So those are some of my favorite moments from the show. I do have the entire show posted up on YouTube. Check it out on the channel. If they aren't up by now, throughout this week or throughout this day, each individual show I also have recorded and will be uploading as well. So if you don't want to watch the whole show, or if you want to just do the individual ones, that's fine too. They're all going to be up there as a playlist for them all. I just want to close by saying this was an amazing experience, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would have never ever had the chance to experience BabyMetal in concert if it wasn't for this channel. So those of you who put me on to BabyMetal, who encouraged me to go out through my journey, those of you who have been there from the very beginning of my journey to see it come full circle to where I finally get to see them live, thank you so much. Thank you to all my subscribers, everyone who watched me. Even if you're not subscribed, that's fine, but you should subscribe. I've enjoyed this immensely. I can't wait to see where this goes on here from now. It's now time, since we did do, finally, this is pretty much the accumulation of everything BabyMetal that I could experience. So now we're going to go into like Sakura Ga Queen and go from there and check out some other things. Anyway, in my opinion, to close this out, it's really, really dumb to compare crowd noise and interactions from different shows in different parts of the country. People act differently all over the world. People respond differently to things, especially different age groups. If you watched me during the show, like if you had your camera on me during the show, you would probably think that I was not enjoying it at all and that I was having a horrible, horrible time, because I'm not one of those people who jumps around, screams, dances, moshes. Just because someone's not doing those things does not mean they are not having the time of their lives. I definitely had one of the time of my lives. There are some, of the top bands that I've seen a lot of bands in concert. And of those bands, this is definitely up there in my top. I mean, I've seen bands like Rush. I've seen Roger Waters in concert. I mean, just as far as performances and stage performance, this is definitely still up there. I know if I see this in Japan, it's going to blow everything out of the water. Some people, though, myself included, are just introverted when experiencing things. So keep that in mind. So I hope you all enjoyed this overview of my entire Pittsburgh, September 8th, 2023 experience from the Babyklok tour. I thank you all for watching. See you.